President Zelensky has finally admitted that Ukrainian troops are invading Russian territory. But just where are they pushing? It's more than initially reported. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so this is a really interesting pivot because up to this point, Ukraine has not acknowledged in any official way that they have been operating inside of Russia's Kursk Oblast. And Zelensky, for the first time, has publicly said that Ukrainian forces have, quote, begun to push the war into the aggressor's territory, addressing the nation on August 10th, right? This is, of course, the most public acknowledgement that any Ukrainian official has made about the cross-border incursion into Kursk Oblast, which began just 5 days ago. But as he said, there's what he isn't specific about is where it's taking place, simply acknowledging that they are pushing the war into the aggressor's territory, which again is so vague and oblique that it could actually be a reference to literally anything. That would even be true if Ukraine was solely launching strikes into Russian territory. And this is a real testament to the fact that Ukraine's military maintained this OPSEC absolutely airtight. The fact is that they put out a lot of information that we now know wasn't even correct, right? We heard that the Ukrainian forces say, hey, we need more time to get these conscripts trained up and into fighting units. We're still waiting on Western aid to resupply us. They've said that we're months away from an offensive. In fact, he created a whole perception that the Russians were actively breaking through lines in Toretsk region and in and around Ocheratina. And the fact is that there's a lot of commentators who are out there saying, oh, this is a desperate attempt by Ukraine to distract or divert Russian forces. But the fact that this raid is being conducted by, again, it's hard to know for sure, but it is not the initial 300 soldiers initially reported. We're looking more along the lines of around 10,000. So that is a sign that, again, 10,000 would be enough to comfortably stabilize any of these individual Russian advances, right? 10,000 fresh, fully equipped troops and brigades would easily be able to shore up the Russian efforts to push near Ocheratina or to stabilize the situation in Toretsk. So the fact is that while there was a lot of claims by Russia that this was some sort of desperation move, the fact that they are well-prepared, well-equipped brigades conducting this operation is a sign that this was something that Ukraine had planned for a long time. But this is just, the map here is the minimum. And in fact, it hasn't been updated in several days. We're going to talk about a lot of reporting that's come out about Ukrainians possibly operating in even more directions and districts. But of course, if you are looking to push back against fatigue, get the energy you need to liberate yourself from not getting stuff done. I don't know where we're going with this, but I know that you got to get yourself some Strike Gum. Strike Gum was inspired by my time in Afghanistan. When I needed caffeine on long patrols, I had to carry around literally a can of energy drink. And it was absolutely disgusting. If you've ever had a warm energy drink, the experience is so awful it stays with you forever. They taste like medicine, and they're carbonated, they're loaded with sugar, so there's always a sugar crash. Strike Gum is the solution, right? 0 sugar, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece. That means each piece of Strike Gum is the equivalent of an entire energy drink. And it's got 100 milligrams of alpha GPC. So if you're interested, right, 0 sugar, all the caffeine, and best of all, it fits in your pocket, fits in your glove box, fits in your gym bag. So wherever you are, you can get the energy. And if you're like a cop, a first responder, a nurse, right? You got to have your hands free. You can't be sipping a Red Bull while doing your job. That's what Strike Gum comes in. Pop it in, chew it. It's a mint flavor. It smells good. You're not going to smell weird. You can't beat it, right? So check it out. Of course, I think your best deal is going to be the 5-pack. Right? It's going to get you the equivalent of 25 energy drinks worth of caffeine. And you could throw 1 pack in your glove box, 1 pack in your home office, 1 pack in your office, right? You keep it in your backpack and you'll have the energy wherever you are. So check it out at strikegum.com. The link is in the description. Okay. So let's talk about where there are reports of Ukrainian forces operating? The answer is all over the place, right? Here's one report that we talked about yesterday of Ukrainian troops publishing a video from the edge of, oh, sorry, this is new. This is actually just from 2 days ago. Ukrainian troops publishing a video from the outskirts of Sudza in Kursk Oblast. So this is saying that, again, there's video, the outskirts of Sudza, you could see. So that's likely this territory here, right? So it could be published from here. It could be out here. But again, a real sign that Ukrainian troops are making substantial progress. So, right, here's them outside of Sudza. And you could see that they're saying, quote, everything is calm in the town, implying that Russian forces have been totally ejected from the town. And what's notable is that there's the 99th Battalion of 61st Mech Brigade, but we know there's a lot of other brigades there. And one of the 61st Mech confirmed that this was a real timely video. But of course, officially, there is no unit that's been confirmed as operating inside this Kursk offensive. And again, this information itself, 2 days old. There's also information from yesterday that says Ukrainian forces are pushing into Belgorod. You could see here, it looks like the 252nd Battalion posing in Boroz in Belgorod. Now, is this just a troll, a raid, a feint, or is this part of a second incursion, trying to stretch Russia's forces even further, right? You notice the battalion flag and a Georgian flag near the Pokrovsky Village Club. And when we look up where this is located, let's see if we can find it here on the maps. You can always count on Russia to, the Village Club. That doesn't look quite right. It looks like a Village Club, wrong town. In fact, it's taking me to Chicago, the Pokrovsky Village Club. All right, well, that's not right. You don't need to see... You don't need to get a map of Chicago. But what's interesting is, again, it's hard to know. Is this a raid? And remember, guys, a raid is defined as entering an objective, seizing it temporarily, and then withdrawing, right? And the idea of... So when you have this kind of offensive that relies so much on deception, what Ukraine is likely trying to do is rely on raids and feints, right? Raids, feints, and like outright deception, right? And so we've seen some of that where they've said, hey, we're just, in some places along the border, Ukraine has just turned on jammers so that Russians go, hey, something's happening. All our cell phones are jammed. And then it appears that nothing materializes. In some places, you have, like what we're seeing here, a raid into Belgorod, and Ukrainians posting on social media, hey, we're here, we're in this town. And then the Russians go, quick, rush a battalion there to contain the breach. The battalion shows up there, and the Ukrainians have already left. It was just a raid. The result is, of course, a battalion that should be reinforcing other Russian troops is now diverted to a nothing burger, right? And of course, sometimes it's going to be real. Right. And so the idea is that the Russians don't know, is this a boy who cried wolf situation where we're going to send a battalion to reinforce it or kick the Ukrainians out and they arrive and there's nothing? Or maybe they don't send anybody. They say it's another fake raid and then Ukrainians actually penetrate and actually seize terrain. So this kind of operations where they don't know if it's fake entirely, if it's a raid, if it's a real incursion to seize more territory is so hard to know. And it's part of the strategy to this. Ukrainian soldiers are reportedly crossing into Belovsky district overnight, according to Russian claims, right? This is overnight last night. Let's see if we can find it here. Where is Belovsky district? I'm actually not sure. Is this the district here? No, that's Tequino. But you see how this can be really convoluted, complicated, and tough to sort of tease out. Let's see. I want to find. I do want to find this actually. Okay, Belovsky, Russia. Okay, so here's Google Maps. telling us that Belovsky district is actually just south of Sudza, right? So what we're looking at, this seems, again, fairly credible. Oh yeah, there you go, Belovsky district, right? Russian media reporting this as of 19 hours ago, that there's also clashes in this district, which would of course make sense, stretching Russian forces along a farther and farther front line. This actually, based on terrain, seems like terrain that Ukraine may choose to go after. Again, in some ways, I think they are implementing some aspects similar to Russia's strategy in Volchansk, where, again, you saw Russian forces sort of open these two fronts. I think Russia's idea was to have them sort of merge together and then drive south towards Kharkiv. But again, the actual offensive was launched prematurely and stalled out pretty quickly. This offensive seems to have actually been properly timed and properly prepared for, and again, is purportedly going quite a bit better than others are acknowledging, right? With a number of air defense systems activated in Kursk, a number of Russian reinforcement columns getting hit kind of all over the place. And I think the final objective is likely, the nuclear power plant in Kurchatov. Possibly Kursk City, but this would be a really hard not to crack for Ukrainian troops. So if they can seize this, right, the idea, remember, guys, is that this isn't about Ukraine actually liberating Russia. It's likely a strategy in order to essentially conduct a territory prisoner exchange, just like Russia or Ukraine is seizing a lot of Russian conscripts and taking them as POWs. That is to exchange them later for Ukrainian troops on a one-for-one basis. And I suspect that Ukraine is saying, listen, why not run the same playbook with territory? If we want to get our territory back, why don't we hold highly valuable Russian territory in order to shore that up, right? So I think that's why they've said, listen, Kursk, the nuclear power plant at Kurchatov, these are areas where we can effectively operate and that are highly valuable to Russia and the Russian economy. And so while we control our largest cities, we can sit there and say, hey, if you want your nuclear power plant back, you have to give us at a minimum our own power plant back, or Zaporizhzhia province, right? So there's that's sort of the strategy here. And again, every square mile of territory that Ukraine seizes and holds is going to be a square mile of territory that they can demand back from Russia at the negotiating table. And that, I think, is the context to think about this. Now, the Russian response, by most accounts here, seems pretty broken. Russian MOD relying on the kind of combination of whoever they have lying around, conscripts already in Kursk Oblast, some elements of Russia's northern grouping of forces, elements redeployed from low-priority frontline areas. And this means that, of course, there's not a single organization organizing this response, right? They're kind of stumbling on top of each other trying to make this happen. There is no singular Russian command responsible for this. Again, this was likely a factor in selecting where Ukraine wanted to push and why they selected Kursk. So, again, you're seeing transferring of reserves to defend Kursk. One mill blogger claims Russian forces deploying up to 9 brigades to Kursk Oblast. A Ukrainian Telegram channel said Russians are redeploying elements of 2 airborne VDV battalions, a naval Russian Marines out of Kherson, motorized rifle brigades from the Zaporizhzhia, infantry battalions in Pokrovsk, fighters from Luhansk, just a ton of different sort of units pulled here and there. Some folks coming out that were defending Belgorod. Again, these are areas where Russia feels they're low priority or they can afford to start robbing units. But again, as we've seen in this war, once you hold territory, it's very, very hard to dislodge it. And that likely is a sign that I don't think Ukraine has another offensive planned. I don't think there's going to be like a big counter attack or whatever. I think this is the plan, and I think they're executing well. Again, this is seen as minimal territory. This is the minimum that the live UA map is willing to confirm. Again, officially, there's supposedly Ukrainian forces operating at a way wider range. Again, closer to a significant portion of all of Kursk Oblast could be under Ukrainian control right now. It just remains to be seen. Now, if you guys want, I'm going to do a live stream tonight where we're going to try to tease out the full extent of Ukrainian claims. We're going to try to figure out more about what's happening here. So if you're interested, again, keep an eye out. You're going to see that like live countdown thing. So do be sure to hit subscribe on the channel and like this video, and that'll make sure that YouTube shows you the live stream when it comes up. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Thank you so much. A huge thank you to the members at combatvetnews.com, especially James Jerling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Knudsen, Bastian Himmerling, Yanko Georgiev, and all the lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without you guys. I appreciate you so very much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.